So I had a friend send me a bunch of questions the other day, and I thought it would be, I asked if I could ask them, like, a video about it, and so I thought they were really good questions, and then I posted a status the other day, and a couple other people asked some questions, so I thought I would just answer some questions, and it gives me another reason to make a video. One of the questions she asked was, why do you think society has such a warped negative stigma placed on the transgender community? I think people who have a negative outlook on transgender individuals, people who aren't educated. And that's my biggest thing with whether that's family members, friends who aren't necessarily that supportive. I just don't think they're educated. It's not talked about. I mean, you hear gays and lesbians, and that's more common. But I've had a bunch of friends say, like, yeah, I heard of it, but until you, I didn't know anybody or see anything about it. So I think people are more understanding once they understand. Like, I know my grandmother, who has been my biggest supporter for years, but since I came out 2.5 years ago, always there, and just she'll ask questions. She just wants to know. And I actually had a friend write a paper the other day, and it was about my transition. I sent it to her, and her response was, I get it. Like, I understand. And so I think people who have a negative outlook just don't know about it. And so it's becoming more talked about. Like, there's TV shows that are slowly bringing in more transgender individuals, which is awesome. Another one is, how does transitioning affect your relationships with friends, family? Everybody's been good. I got one family member who's not quite on board yet, but we're getting there. But everybody's been awesome. I honestly thought by coming out as transgender, this would just completely ruin my relationship with my family, my mom, and it hasn't. I think it's only gotten stronger, and I mean, I talk to them as much as I can about it. They'll ask certain questions. They'll comment on my things. They use the right name, the pronouns. So that's getting really good. And friends are just, some of them are having a harder time switching to pronouns, but they're catching it. Like my roommate, she's awesome. She'll say, how you doing, lady, man? So she's catching herself. And people who are catching themselves, just, it's okay if you slip up. It happens. I get it. But it's kind of awesome when they do mess up and they slip, but they catch themselves. And so that part's been cool. So how does this process entail? I've talked about my testosterone injections. I get those every week by a lovely friend. But before that, I started to bind my chest. I did use ace bandage, which is really bad for your ribs, your back, everything. But it did wrap. And then eventually I got a binder, which my first one was a tri-top, so it came up to about here. And it's just a spandex suction gadget that puts your chest down. So it makes me look like I have more of a flattened chest. I did get another one, so pretty much just looks, I mean, it's black spandex. This one goes a little bit lower. It's a full tank, and it covers my love handles. So it makes me look like I don't have as much hips, because I got a lot down there. And so it kind of helps just with my figure look, not as curvy. And obviously going to the gym, again, will help. Working on it. What's the hardest part of this process so far? Being patient. I'm one of those people, if I go to the gym, I expect to look like a bodybuilder when I go out. Not going to happen. But it's just being patient for more things to change. My voice has gotten a little bit deeper, if anybody's noticed. That's probably the biggest one. But it's waiting to see. I mean, I follow people on Instagram, Tumblr, bunch of other FTMs, and I see their transitions. Like, oh, why don't I look like that yet? But it's like, it's not even been 2 months, so being patient is probably the hardest part about it, but I'm loving this entire thing. What are you hoping to gain by making this transition? I just want to pass. I still get called ma'am. there's been a couple cases on deliveries where people will, hey, bud, what's up, man? It's like, yeah, I fooled them, but it didn't really fool. My cat's right here. This is Doug. This is the infamous Doug. Dude, you're not helping. Sorry. So, I'm gonna chill there. But I just want to pass. I don't want there to be any question of which gender am I. I just want to be seen as a male. So, but again, it's the being patient part. She asked me if I've heard of any violent acts or crimes, people who are transgender. Do acts like this scare you? How would you handle them? I'm not scared. I'm more on guard, if anything. There's always that possibility somebody's going to say something, whether that's being out somewhere and somebody's had a little bit too much to drink. I'm more on guard. Another question I was asked if I've gone to use the men's restroom. I haven't yet. I want to. Kills me to go into the women's. But that's where I'm most scared. Not really scared, but it's like, I feel like if anything, that's when somebody would say something to me, like, why are you in here? You don't belong in here. So I keep saying I will start using it when it's not as noticeable. But until then, and knowing me, I'll probably take a video walking into the men's restroom or take a picture. Probably gonna happen. But I'm not really scared. Like I said, I'm more on guard. Do I have any advice to give to anybody who wants to transition? It's very hard. It was cheesy and obnoxious, but I mean, I said it out loud to myself, and you have to accept it yourself before you can expect other people to accept it. And I love how my cat's tail just going nuts back there. Sorry. But I told one friend at first, just to test the waters. Obviously, you should never hide who you are. But in a community where Central Illinois, it's not the biggest thing. And so, word gets around, whatever. But find your team, find your support system. Go to a therapist. I go to therapy every week. And I used to be embarrassed by it. But it's a neutral party who's on your side, helping you be the better person you can be. And she's great. She helped me figure out a plan to tell certain people how to do everything. And so, but you just got to be true to yourself, and you got to accept it yourself. If you haven't accepted yourself, that needs to be the first to happen. I was asked how, because I talk about how the physical changes emotionally. I'm happier. Like, that's big. And I don't wake up every day bummed I'm awake and alive. I get out of bed. I almost have the strength to do it. I do feel more masculine. I feel like more of a man, which is good because I am one. But my aggression, that's a big one. It's the littlest things that set me off, and I just hate everything, and I want to punch things because that's what men do. I don't really punch things. But, I mean, I work on it. If I'm mad, I'm having a bad day. Or I used to travel to harmful things to myself. I go work out. I go lift weights. I go for a walk. I'll talk to a friend. But I think that's the biggest emotional changes so far. I haven't noticed anything. I'm getting better with directions. I don't know if that's, like, legit, but I used to be really bad at directions. Maybe that's from driving so much for deliveries, but I'm better with directions. Like, take 3 rights and a left. How do you get back? Well, you take a right and 3 lefts. I think, did I do that right? I don't know. Anyway, I'm good with directions now. What has been your proudest moment so far? I'm doing it. Like, I spent years being upset, sad, hating the world, hating my life. I'm finally doing it. It's been awesome. I could not ask for a better family, friends, support system. Everybody's been awesome. So, thank you again. thank you all for being a part of my journey and making this an awesome experience. So, thank you, and sure, there'll be another video coming up for 2 months. Have a great day, guys.